But what was very, very interesting, you know, lots of the policies came out. We all feel very enthused. But one big thing came about the military and military veterans. And we're heartbroken every Saturday we stand in the centre of Gloucester outside the Guildhall. I mean, Stuart knows it. So many military veterans sleeping in the streets that night. And that does crack us up. And we've tried to get them housed. We've tried all sorts of things. We've got military veterans here tonight. I think you probably know who they are. One you might not know is Nigel. Nigel, could you? Now Nigel, I only met a couple of weeks ago. Well, come on, Nigel. A few weeks ago. Nigel's not from Gloucestershire, but he's almost, because he's from Herefordshire. So it's almost next door. Yeah. But what he is an author. He's a screenwriter, and he's a military veteran. In, am I allowed to say what?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
He, along with other people here tonight, has put his life on the line for our country, and we couldn't ask any more than that. But anyway, as an author, I thought it was better than me try and say it. You could say, tell them about your book.
This is my book, Bring Me the Arse of Saddam. Very briefly, I was a war correspondent in 2003. In fact, I bluffed my way over into Iraq. I was the first unembedded war correspondent to go into Iraq. I was going to cover the Brits down in Basra, but we got stopped by a T-72 tank, and so I then decided to go on with the US Marine Corps, because that's really where the story was, up in Baghdad. So I sort of piggybacked on the US Marine Corps going forward with them, and eventually managed to get into Baghdad. We were sort of, I was captured in Saddam's Republican Guard stadium, where old Saddam used to cut people's heads off there, but I was captured by the US Marine Corps. They said it was too dangerous to get outside, to go to Firdos Square, which was where the world press were at the time. You know, if you can remember Firdos Square with the big statue of Saddam, and the Palestine Hotel. But eventually I managed to escape and then make my way to Firdos Square, because that was the story. I got there a few hours later, and while all the world press were patting themselves on the back, I decided to go and have a chat with the Marines that had secured the cordon of the square. And all I wanted was, being an old soldier, all I wanted was something shiny to take home with me. And I said to the Marine guy, I said, look, you know, can I have a bit of the statue? He said, yeah, buddy, no problem. So he disappears and comes back with this sledgehammer and crowbar. He gives me the crowbar. We start smashing it on the big statue. So eventually, a big piece dropped off, and it was his left buttock.
Not the Marine.
No, on the statue. So the thing was that I really didn't know what to do with it, but eventually I stuck it in the back of my truck, and then went back down to. The story was over for me. Everybody was going up to Tikrit and running around looking for Saddam Hussein and going into his palace and stuff, and I was just about bored with that. So I wanted to go back down south to Kuwait. So. Some other guys wanted to come down, this guy anchorman who's just recently retired, Jeremy Thompson, and a couple of guys from the Sun newspaper jumped on the back with me, and we went back down to Kuwait. Eventually got arrested going into Kuwait, because Jeremy had a picture of Saddam, and some of the guys had some AK-47 magazines, you know, like they do. So we got arrested by the Kuwait police, but they left the arse in the back of the truck. I told him it was a bullet. I told him it was a bullet catcher, you know. So anyway, 1 o'clock on years later, and by the way, when I left British Airways, they charged me £325 extra baggage for the weight, because it is a big piece of Saddam's arse, and it's made of bronze, you see. So years and years later, I went through a second divorce. So I had to leave the house, the matrimonial house, and clear all my kit out, you know, as you do. And in the gardener's shed, amongst the pots of paint, was the arse. And so I took that home with me, and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? And like Richard was saying about how they treat ex-servicemen and women, I was so despondent the way the British Army were treated in Basra, and I worked there several years, and I saw how badly equipped they were, and I was absolutely really frustrated with it all, and what with the divorce and everything else, I decided to try and do something good. So I put the arse up for auction. Yeah. Initially, somebody said 25 grand, and I said, well, no, I want a bit more than that, because I was going to raise money for the Royal Centre of Defence Medicine and Hope for the Warriors, which is a US Marine charity. I put a price of £250,000, which I thought was, you know, a bit high, but you know, it went. That's when the trouble started, because someone put a complaint into the FCO up in Baghdad, some Iraqi, who then instructed the British police to come and arrest me. I mean, absolutely horrendous story, but this is what the book's about. It's a two-part book. They eventually arrested me, bailed me several times, spent almost £100,000 of taxpayers' money, giving me the run around, the Keystone Cops. So it's a two-part book about me and the Marines, and then second part about me fighting with the British establishment. It's a right riveting read.
So what we're going to do is auction this book off tonight. It'll be signed by the author, and you've heard the backstory to it. The tome is called Bring Me the Arse of Saddam. You know the story. It'll be signed by Nigel. Do I have any bidders?